Yeah. It is a Tuesday morning, and we are live in the Findlay Hyundai studio. What's up, Southern Utah? Thanks for locking us in. Starting your Tuesday workday with us here on your number one source for local sports. Devin Dixon, Connor Collins, Paul Ratliff on the drive. And on the hotline right now, athletic director of the Utah Tech Trailblazers, Ken Beazer, is joining us on the show. Good morning, Ken. How are you?
Good morning, Devin. Doing quite well.
Exciting news coming out. I want you to kind of tell me and tell the listeners what exactly this means now that the WAC and the ASUN have a new conference name. What's the underlying story here for Utah Tech and the rest of the WAC?
I guess it means that we're official. I mean, this, as you know, this is a partnership that actually started last fall, and we've been going through the process, coming up with a name for the conference. It's been quite an extensive process as we've rolled through this, but we came up with a name. Everybody's on board with it, and it was just launched, and so we're official now.
What has those meetings been like? How many meetings have you had to have regarding this? What's it like working with Oliver Luck and having him kind of lead this joint venture?
I've been on the committee. I've been on the branding committee. There's been three of us athletic directors, Oliver Luck, and the commissioner from the ASUN and commissioner from obviously the WAC. And so we were the ones who were kind of leading it through. So I've had quite a few meetings. It's been well over a dozen. Met in Dallas at one point, and then quite a few meetings with the presidents on Zoom. I think they said that we probably had upwards of 20 focus groups throughout the conference, working with each institution, the student athletes, kind of a whole litany of people through their marketing departments. And it's been quite an extensive process. And ironically, the process was led by our own Jordan Sharp, their Vice President Sharp on campus, who knows a thing or two about rebrands.
Yes.
And so it was pretty cool. And then, Oliver Luck, like I said, Oliver's been on campus here. He was here he was here the first week of our spring football practice. He came on campus, but, there's a name in the NCAA and actually in all circles of football. He's been great to work with, got a lot of experience, and learned a lot from him.
Do you like the name? Are you all behind it? Did you have a vote? I mean, it's now going to be the United Athletic Conference. I mean, it was the Western Athletic Conference, so you do keep the athletic in there, and now the new change is the United. Your thoughts on it personally?
Yeah, as we went through the process, and I went through the name change here at the university, not just, name of the university, but although, going from the Red Storm to the Trailblazers, and every one of those processes, as you work through, you see names, go, okay, that one will work, this one maybe, this one not, and it inevitably comes down to one just kind of comes up at the end, and it came up to two towards the end, and United actually came out as the top vote getter from all the focus groups. It was the top one, and it was overwhelmingly the favorite of the presidents of the group. They thought it just spoke to who we were as a conference. Now, let's make sure we're all clear on this. This is just a football-only conference right now.
Correct.
So even though it says United Athletic Conference, this is a football-only conference. You couldn't go United Football Conference because then you got an issue with UFC. So this United Athletic Conference, football only. But my feelings on it, I think it also speaks to who we are. I mean, it's United. You're taking really, you go nationally with this. I mean, this you can pluck a piece from here and there, no matter where they're at in the country, and it still fits within. I mean, the geographic branding of the conference, which is United.
And Ken, I just wanted to get your impressions on Oliver Luck. I crossed paths with him in 2012 when he was AD at West Virginia. Really did a big things for them, brought them from the Big East to the Big 12. What have been some of his impressions about Utah Tech? You said he was on campus. What are his ideas for areas of improvement? What's his overall scope on Utah Tech as a university and an athletic program?
His initial impression when he came in here was wow, didn't know you were this far along. I mean, those were almost his words. I mean, word for word of what he indicated. As he came on campus, he met with several people within our department, the football coach, He met with the president, our marketing people, and he was pleasantly surprised at how far along we are, not only with facilities but with our programs. He said, "I really had no idea what this community has to offer and what this university has to offer." That was his first impressions. One of his reasons for coming on campus is because he visited all the campuses, and we're waiting for the report to come back. He did, I mean, for lack of a better term, an audit on everybody's football programs and where they're at and where they need to be. And so we're waiting to get that report back. But as he walked out the door, he said, "You are not far off." He says, "In fact, you're ahead of several other institutions I visited already." So that was good to hear.
So what's next now? The official website, I'm sure, will come out in the weeks to come. I'm sure there'll be more information about this. But what do you foresee the next steps are after this was all made public and named the United Athletic Conference?
Well, we need a logo.
A logo?
We need a brand.
Yeah.
We don't have a logo yet, and that's our next step of this committee I'm on, is to come up with a logo, and it has to be pretty quick here because we still don't know if we're going to get it done in time to where we can change out the logos on our football fields, change out the logos on our jerseys, the patches on our jerseys. Those are questions that we still haven't answered. But we're not. That's the first and foremost the next thing we have to do. We've already put together bylaws because this is a standalone. This is a single sport conference which functions independently of the WAC and the ASUN. So it has its own set of policies. It has its own governance structure. Separate from those are already in place for the most part. We still have to do some fine-tuning on that. It will look different. Just some subtleties in the WAC, there was really no limit on travel squad size for football. In this conference, there will be a limit on the number of people you can travel, number of student athletes you can travel. So first and foremost, branding and solidify and kind of tie a bow on the bylaws and policies, and then just roll it out from there.
And Coach, I was just going to kind of ask you, and you already started off about it. This new conference, it looks like you're adding a few new schools in there, going out to Central Arkansas, Austin Peay, getting out to North Alabama. The travel is going to be a lot more different this season. What are the plans to compensate for the travel and just go about that this next season?
Okay, and this is why it's a football-only conference. It allows for us, the travel doesn't really become as big of an issue because of the culture of football and the way football is administered in the NCAA. It's you play one game a week, and it's once you get on a charter flight, I mean, where you're headed is really a difference of 45 minutes to an hour. Now, if this was a full conference where we have our baseball teams, our basketball teams, softball teams, where they're going in and playing a couple of games, that would be logistically an issue. In football, whether we're flying to Maine or flying to Fort Collins, Colorado, it's just how long you're on that plane. It really, you're still going in for one night, you're still playing the game and coming back right after, and your kids are still getting back in fairly decent time because of the mode by which you travel, which is charter. So yes, I mean it's going to be some new names for the community, for the institutions, but the travel really isn't going to make that much of a difference with our athletes and our coaches.
Give all our listeners a little update on the scheduling and how that will change. We had so many previous commitments with, we got that money game in Fort Collins against Colorado State.
Right.
We play 5 conference games. There's way more members than that. Is that because we have so many previous obligations already scheduled?
Yeah. So this was when we were talking about this clear back in September about formalizing this conference. We could not go. We want to get to that 8-game conference schedule. That's an ideal schedule. That gives you 4 home, 4 away, and then 3 games to play with as non-conference games, sometimes 4 depending on the year when you have 12-game seasons. But everybody had already contracted out with games, and no matter how we looked at it, we still had we still could not get out of all these games. So we went with a 6-game conference schedule for this year. So we'll actually play 6 games this next year in conference. And then the following year, every year after that, it's going to be 8. So we are still going to have to adjust our schedule for 2024. We still have some games that we have to, kind of maneuver around. But you're right. Every school could not get out of the games feasibly that they already had scheduled for 2023, even though we looked at it.
Well, I got you, Ken Beazer, Athletic Director, Utah Tech University, on the phone with us here on the Fan Sports Network. What are your thoughts on this year's football schedule? I mean, we talked to Coach Peterson yesterday. We did a big recap on the red-white game and spring camp. I thought it went awesome. I know you were there, saw you out watching. And Montana State played in the national championship. And then Montana, the first two games, mentioned that road game at Colorado State. This is another grueling schedule for Coach Peterson and the fellas this year.
Yeah, and it just, to be honest, it's not an ideal schedule. And not an ideal schedule. And this is where this schedule is actually generated clear back in right when we went Division One. And, my predecessor, Dr. Jason Booth, in here, we didn't have a conference at that time. I mean, we were going to function as an independent. And so he was just trying to get games. So he's just trying to get games. And, the only teams that are willing to play him at that time were these teams that, are pretty strong. So you look at this schedule, and when I talk about we couldn't get out of a lot of these games, I mean, you got non-conference games that you were contracted, and some of these games have buyouts as high as $500,000. And so you have Montana State, Montana. Northern Arizona is a great game for us. I mean, it's a bus trip for both institutions, and I'd love to do that every year.
Right.
And then on the back end, Missouri State. Remember, Missouri State came here 2 years ago. Well, this is the back end of that home and home that we have to go out there. Our non-conference, we open up at Montana State, and then we come home against Montana, which is the back end of the home and home we had with them because we played in Missoula 2 years ago, and then at Northern Arizona, and then the return game to Missouri State, and then the money game, as we call it, is at Colorado State there in Fort Collins. And then we get into that 6-game schedule we're talking about with the conference. So we have 5 non-conference, all of them tough opponents. And then we roll right into the conference schedule. And this is a tough conference. I mean, this United Athletic Conference, I mean, there are no gimmies in there either.
Right. Do you like the fact that the conference has scheduled SUU for the season finale, the regular season finale, November 18th at Greater Zion Stadium against the T-Birds? Of course, that was exciting last year. Both teams splitting with the 2 games that ended up being scheduled.
I love it. I love it. There's, one thing that has been clear this past year is whenever Utah Tech lines up, no matter what the sport, against Southern Utah University, there's a great deal of regional interest in it. And both institutions elevate their play. And so, and just putting it at the end of the season is great. I think SUU is fine with it. I know we are putting it at the end of the year. It always gives you something, at that end of the year that motivates. Like this last year, we had that BYU game there at the end of the year, and the kids never lost their focus all year long. I think the SUU game is going to be similar in that fact that the kids will never lose their focus.
Love it. Ken Beazer, Athletic Director, Utah Tech. Coach, thanks for coming on with us, talking about the United Athletic Conference with this merger. More things to come out, the logos, the website, the scheduling, but it is exciting. Learned a lot. Thanks for the time, buddy, and we'll be in touch. Always great to have you on the show.
No, thank you. It was good to be with you this morning.
All right, Ken Beazer, live on the drive. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. Lots more sports talk on the other side. Stay with us.